My first time. My mother always told me there was no harm in a little white lie. For once in my life, my mother was wrong. After the incident, I asked my mother why she had been lying to me my whole life. Did she think her white lie of telling me white lies were A-okay was A-okay? Because it wasn't. There was one particular white lie that screwed it all up. Everything. The first time, wedding photos, everything in between. Just everything. I suppose none of this is relevant if I don't give you the backstory. So here I go, mentally abusing myself by repeating old memories and what could have been. I should probably go back to last year, when I first encountered Paul's beautiful face. It was midway through freshman year, so of course, my friends and I all had our obsession with a certain neighborhood boy. Paul wasn't mine, if that's what you're thinking. I didn't even know Paul existed until Julie and I walked past Yummy China and she stopped in her tracks, as if she had a premonition or something. Julie started to freak out, stuttering and muttering, "Oh my God, that's the boy I was telling you about, the one in the gray sweatshirt." Julie was the shy one. She never wanted to be seen or heard. I wanted to be seen, and once that was accomplished, it was only a matter of time before guys started to peel off my attractive mask and hear my insides. But that's neither here nor there. I decided I wanted to walk in, grab a bite to eat. I was boy hungry, so we ordered an egg roll to share while we shared the view of these handsome, handsome boys. I should stop calling them boys. They weren't boys. They've always been guys. Men. They were freshmen, too. College freshmen. And we were high school freshmen. At any rate, we'd been sucking on our respective ends of the egg roll for about 10 minutes now, and none of them had said anything. There were 4 of them. I guess we looked pretty stupid, but we thought we looked sexy. I had recognized 2 of the boys. Damn it, I called them boys again, didn't I? Guys, sorry. I had recognized 2 of the guys, but of course I'd only recognized them because this group of people ruled our town. By recognize, I mean I knew their birthdays, their anniversaries with their overly tanned girlfriends, their license plate numbers. That probably sounds a little crazy, I know, but just remember what it was like to be 14 years old. 14 years old with all the internet access in the world. The overly tanned girlfriends treated Facebook as their public relationship space. They were proud of their boyfriends. I would be too if I was one of the lucky Oompa Loompas. I could have been just as lucky had I not taken my mom's advice. I walked out of Yummy China, unsatisfied because I didn't get a piece of Yummy Paul. This encounter with Paul blasted me off into a parallel universe of kissing pictures and dates at Yummy China. Or kissing pictures from our dates at Yummy China. I wasn't as obsessed as it seems, you know. I mean, he was just a really hot older guy. Like, really hot. So it was the beginning of August, and I hadn't seen Paul, at least in person anyway. And then one day, on a whim, Julie and I decided to go to the mall. Going to the mall probably doesn't seem like such an impulse decision for 2 girls, but the mall near our house sucks. It's bombarded with fast food that we can't help but indulge in, and the majority of shoppers are hood rats. But Julie and I wanted to sex ourselves up for the end of summer. We were heading into our sophomore year of high school. It was time to stock up on the G-strings and other lacy paraphernalia. Paul and his friends weren't hood rats per se. I'd like to believe that they were getting new sneakers, which is probably true anyway. Sneaker City was adjacent to Pam's Potpourri and Panties. We were walking out of Pam's Palace like 2 kids in a candy store. We couldn't wait till we got home to open our goodies. We were so caught up in our treats that neither of us realized we were leaving a trail behind us. I guess this next part was fate, though. We heard a voice behind us say, "Yo, girls!" We thought it was a hood rat hollering at us, so we didn't stop. The voice got closer and closer to us until we had no choice but to turn around. And thank God we did. There was Junior, one of Paul's friends we had seen in Yummy China. "These yours?" Junior asked us. I automatically took charge in initiating conversation because Julie was too busy blushing. I flirtatiously chuckled and in my oldest, sexiest voice said, "Yeah, just getting ready for the weekend." "Oh yeah? Well, if you're not too busy, you should come to my boys' open crib Saturday night. It's on Washington Avenue." I couldn't believe it. Of all the ways I expected to make it into the big leagues and meet these scorching fellows, this was not it. I had to act as if I had no idea who Junior was. I had to play it off as if there was no chance in hell 2 ladies like us would step foot in that joint. "Hold up, buddy. We don't even know you. What makes you think we'd want to go to a party with you?" I put emphasis on the "you" because that was the point where I looked him up and down like I hated his guts. The kindergarten psychology had always worked for me, so why stop now? It's this huge house atop Crescent Hill. We've got bumpin' music, bumpin' and grinding, free drinks, us sexy guys. What's not to want? Junior must be a pretty great bread spreader because boy, oh boy, was that a smooth declaration. Well, us sexy girls may take you up on that offer. I grabbed my thong and walked backwards, saying to him, "But don't expect it." I then proceeded to do a pirouette, a real showstopper if I do say so myself. We had spent the rest of the week eating baby food. We thought it'd help us maintain our smooth-as-a-baby's-bottom persona. When I say we, I'm referring to myself and Julie, but only because she was there for every ritual along the road. She wasn't as smooth as I was at the mall because she didn't say a word. Not a single word. We had also reenacted the mall miracle at least once every hour on the hour. I was always Junior, unless Julie asked otherwise. I needed to be Junior because I needed to see if my perception of reality was an actuality or a skewed vision I created in my head. There were two realities that I needed to make sure of. Was I as smooth as I thought I was? Was he as interested as I thought he was? When I played the role of Junior, Julie would always call me out on what didn't really happen, like the number exchange I occasionally threw in there. She would also show me how I was truly acting. I'd call her out on her false interpretations as well, like the way she would keel her body over to make her non-existent cleavage more noticeable and her butt look a little less bony. I'd like to believe she was doing that to simply embody my great body. So the big day had come at last, and we had no idea when to show up. We knew the party was still happening because on top of what I had just told you, we had also spent our weeks surfing various social networking sites to see who was going, who was supplying the alcohol, who our biggest competition was. Every girl was our biggest competition, but we tried not to fret. We were the new girls to them. New toys were always more fun to play with. Julie had come up with an absolutely genius plan. We would tell our mothers that we were going to a 10 o'clock movie. That way, we'd still have until about 12:30. Julie's mother offered to pick us up from the movie theater. "I don't want you girls strolling around at all hours of the night," is what she precisely said. I remember this because I remember every moment leading up to the party. I was bent on remembering every last detail of my old life. The moment I stepped into that party, I knew it would be the beginning of my new, upgraded existence. We arrived at exactly 9:57 p.m., and there was like 7 people there. 3 couples and Junior. "For girls who had so much planned tonight, you're here early." He chugged his beer and then introduced himself. No one else at the party gave a shit who we were. The girls were giving us funny looks as if they knew we were younger, and the other guys had their Oompa Loompas, but Junior introduced us anyway. Junior was really nice, giving us as many drinks as we wanted. People were starting to trickle in. I was starting to see little stars every time I closed my eyes until I saw the one star I had been waiting for all night. Paul, in all his glory, had just walked in. I looked at the clock. It was 11:37. Cinderella still had time to make her move before she spewed pumpkin. Now this next part is all sort of a blur. Think of it more as a synopsis than a retelling. Prince Paul was walking towards me. This was the moment that would change my life. "Hey, hot stuff, I'm Clara, and what's your..." My index finger somehow landed on Paul's chest. "Name." One thing I could tell you for sure is that at this point I was rocking back and forth, and this I'm sure because I remember thinking how fun roller coasters would be with Paul. Yeah, I'm Paul, but do you think you could get out of the way?" he said as he motioned towards the refrigerator I was leaning against. At this point I might have said something like, "Why would you want me out of the way?" "Because a beer is more enticing than you," he grinned. He was like a human Rubik's Cube. It was nearly impossible to win his game. But this just made him all the more enticing to me. "What about a beer and me?" I confidently asked him as my body practically fell into the refrigerator and then onto him. Paul grabbed his beer out of my hand. "I'll just take the beer for now." For now. This was the key phrase. The only problem I had with his words was that I had a limited time frame. It was already 11:45. Some guys like assertive girls. I needed to see if Paul was one of them. He was about halfway done with his beer at this point, his first beer, when I walked up to him and plopped myself onto his lap. I started kissing his neck. I'd seen girls do that in the movies plenty of times. And guess what? It did the trick. Paul led me to the nearest bedroom, and we started kissing a lot. I've never touched a boy's penis before, so when Paul took my hand to his pants, I just pretended to pass out. Now I'm warning you, you're not going to believe this next part. The next day, I log onto Facebook and have about 4 new friend requests. 1 is from Junior, 2 are from the girlfriends, and the last one, the most important one, is from none other than Paul. I couldn't believe that the pipe in which I held my dream had cracked and let loose into the world. I sent him a message. "Hey, sorry about last night. Jose Cuervo and I aren't the best of friends." I had gone through about 30% of Wikipedia when he finally messaged me back. "Haha, yeah, well, we all have our nights. Sushi for lunch, yo, get at me." It had worked. My entire plan had worked. Now Paul liked me and was inviting me to sushi with him. I love that. When and where do you want to meet? Now that he asked me on a date, I thought it was okay to show him how interested I am. I didn't get a message back for about 2 days. I was starting to get worried. But then he finally replied with this. "Ha ha ha, that's not what I meant by sushi for lunch, yo, but if you want, we could get sushi today. Meet me at Yakikuru at 3 p.m. and don't be late. Tardiness ain't sexy, baby." We were really moving on up. He was calling me baby and taking me to public places where all his friends could see him, with me. I arrived at 2:58. I didn't want to be too early, but I could not be late. Paul was a hypocrite because he didn't even get there until 3:07. Conversation was just flowing, and he paid for my lunch. We laughed a lot, and we kissed before I went home. The next couple of days went without incident, until he IM'd me out of nowhere. His screen name was Sushi for Lunch, yo. Our date had meant so much to him that he decided to make it his screen name. I commented on the fact, and he just laughed it off. He laughed a lot of things off. I loved his sense of humor. Now, I guess I shot myself in the foot with this whole age thing, I told him to guess. He said he thought I was 17. I told him he was right on the money. See, this is where it gets a little tricky, because I didn't really lie, I just omitted the truth. Now that he thought I was 17, we had started to talk a lot, like at least once a day. I had started to become good friends with his friends, and I guess it was pretty stupid of me to tell his friends I was actually 15. I only told this one boy, David, who was still a senior at my high school. That's the reason why I told him. I was paranoid he'd see me in the freshman hallways and figured out my secret. In any event, the summer was coming to an end, and Paul was heading back to college. He didn't find out about my age, and all was going well. Fast forward to the night before he would have to return to school. We were kissing in the passenger seat when he asked me, "How about we go back to my house?" The devil sitting on my right shoulder wanted to go because it was Paul, the boy guy of my dreams. But the angel on my left was screaming, "Don't do it." She didn't want me to reveal my innocence to Paul. I'd love to, but I need to go home. I told my mom I would watch Saturday Night Live with her. Another little white lie. This one was necessary, though. It was a type of white lie my mom was A-okay with. Paul pulled away from my embrace and in one fell swoop landed in the driver's seat. I followed him to the front, assuming my position. We drove in silence until we arrived in front of my house. "So I'll see you tomorrow?" I hopelessly asked him. "I don't know. I'm leaving in the afternoon. We'll see." And then he kissed me and drove off into the moon shadow. I should kick myself 1,000 times for not going with him that night, but I guess that wouldn't have changed our present status. The next morning, I had an instant message from Paul. "Clara, are you 15? "Only for another 22 days. You lied. You're a child. I can't talk to you anymore. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I didn't want to ruin what we have, and I knew you'd react this way. Go through puberty. You're so young. I have standards. Sorry." "Okay, sorry I didn't meet them. Bye." "Nope. Bye." And that was the last I'd ever heard from him. Had I not lied to my mother about where I was going, or lied to Paul about my age, none of this would have ever happened. I would have had a greater chance being allowed to take my mother's car out for a joyride with no license or permit than I would have had to go to the party. Had I not gone to the party, I wouldn't have met Paul, and then I wouldn't be sitting here telling you about the events leading up to my first heartbreak.